All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Finance Committee's meeting for Thursday, February 18th, starting at 6:31. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Old business will approval of the minutes. Oh, come on in, Oscar.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second on the minutes. Any discussion? I looked at them. I thought they were great. Oscar, any issues with the minutes from the last meeting?
They were lengthy, it took me a long time to read them, but otherwise okay.
All right. All those in favor to approve the minutes as written, said aye?
Aye.
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 Approved. All right. Do we have any committee/liaison reports to report?
Yeah, I got, just want to bring out the fact that I met with the library and they're not real satisfied with what the end result was. As you probably know, the trustees chose to file a petition. They've been having just ongoing discussions, and all the things that have been said for years and years and years, I don't have to regurgitate. But trustees will be meeting again at their next meeting. They're going to decide whether or not they're going to go forward with the article. So,
Let's be clear, though, that's an article from 10 people, they aren't all trustees.
no, okay, then I'll
Okay.
go back and explain
Yeah.
myself. The trustees
Yeah.
proceeded with filing a petition and got other 10 people to sign it.
So, okay, yep. Yes, of course.
Obviously, whenever there's a budget decision to be made, it's very difficult to sit in the manager's chair and to look at all of the various departments and determine what, if any, reductions in expanded service are going to be applicable. And there is certainly a difference between a reduction and a requested expansion of service versus a true cut. A 5% or better increase in expenses and a 5% or better increase in wages under those line items is not a cut. Secondly, what I do want to point out is that I did seek and I did receive a legal opinion relative to the pending petitioned article. And this came from Attorney Costello, Town Council. He did review the town charter, and essentially the warrant article may appropriate the funds, may designate those funds to be expended for a specific purpose, but they do not compel me to fill that position as the appointing authority. And I am here tonight to tell you that I am not going to fill that position because it goes outside of the regular budgetary process. What is the regulatory or regular budgetary process? In my view, you bring it, the department head brings it to the manager reviews it, and then it is subsequently reviewed by you folks, the Finance Committee, and it's reviewed by the Board of Selectmen. If the Finance Committee, which is advisory, in unison want to support this, and if the Board of Selectmen, who I report to, want to support this in unison, then obviously I would reconsider. However, the recommended budget, which you have before you, as they say, it is what it is. And we're not going to be able to please everyone and call it at the end of the day an affordable budget. So it's a balancing act. It's constantly a balancing act. And that's where the tough decisions need to be made. There were two positions, as I said in the last meeting, that were added. One was in the proposed Department of Natural Resources, which has not been authorized yet, but which is going to come before town meeting in May. And there's also another position which was approved in October, which was, again, for the same department, but it was a water quality control monitoring position, tech. That position, or I should say those positions, are going to be offset by positions that were not funded in the fiscal year 17 budget. So where positions have been added, we have reduced. And I just want to make that clear, because I don't want anybody thinking that if that warrant article passes on a petitioned article, that I'm compelled to fill that position. I'm not, and I won't. Unless the Board of Selectmen advise me that they feel differently. But it's not going to be the Board of Trustees, with all due respect to the Board of Trustees.
Do they know that, what you just said?
Well, if they're watching, they know now.
Well, yeah. So I'm assuming this was a recent
This
reading
was
from Pat
given to me February 17th at 4:20 PM.
yesterday.
If I may, though, I know that not necessarily in the library department, but that's a well-known fact with any department that would want to do it outside of the
Outside of the
budgeting
budget.
process, that the town manager is not compelled to fill the position. It might be created, but we don't have, he doesn't have to fill it, because that's his job.
And the town can appropriate the funds, but if they're not expended, they would go back into the
Right.
general fund or free cash. I'm always open to constructive dialogue. I'm always willing to sit down. I'm not going to just give the blanket no, but on the other hand, this was, in my view, not the appropriate process in which to follow.
Yeah, we never like to have this, an argument on town meeting floor when
Right.
articles go against. I mean, we've run into issues with the schools and doing things and stuff like that, and we've circumvented, it seems like, most of it prior. Now, does I'm assuming the selectmen haven't heard yet, or have they, of Pat's, thing, and maybe, you don't know which way they would go with this
There is
yet.
no indication that
Right.
the Board of Selectmen want to circumvent the process that has been followed year after year after year. And in terms of 10 signatures, I could go out and get 10 signatures in 30 minutes. So that's not a high hurdle.
Well, you could get 8 right here, so, I mean. No, I just wonder if there's a way that when, and I just don't know the date, when would they could pull that article on town meeting floor, correct?
Yes, they can.
They can ask to indefinitely postpone it, but they also, if the signers of that document, all 10 that are on there, all sign off to take it off, then it can come
come
off.
off.
But of course, the selectmen cannot remove it because it's a petition
petition,
article.
correct.
And they won't be executing the warrant till the end of March, correct?
I believe you are correct.
Because I know we have to have all the reports in by April 2nd or so. So, anyway, I'm a big believer in not going outside the process, and it's unfortunate when we resort, it's not just them, it's happened, as you just referred to, with other ones, but the danger of going outside the budgeting process is that next year, it might be 10 departments that put in for another position. I'm not saying it would happen, but it could. And it's just a balancing act, and it's a difficult balancing act to decide for the town manager and for us with our votes
Well,
to decide where things should go. But I believe there's a process to be followed, and I'm sorry, but I don't think the case was made. And
Do you think that there will be additional, like, has there been dialogue or is there an anticipated meeting to discuss?
Not at this time, but
Yeah.
again, I would say to the director, I would say to the Board of Trustees, I would say to anybody that's listening, if they want to sit down and they want to chat, then let's have a constructive dialogue. But here's the bottom line, pardon the pun. There's only so much of the pie, and there's only so much where you feel comfortable with. When the finance team gets together, and may I add, the finance team here is outstanding. They make whoever the manager is look very good. So you assemble some advice, some counsel from your finance team, and then you take a look at the options. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're not teetering into an area where we clearly have not gone and do not want to go, financially speaking. So, yes, there are some priorities coming down the pike, and we've identified those. And we want to address those, but the only way we can do that is through appropriate financial planning. And I understand that there are always departments who are going to stand up and say, but what about us, and what about us, and what about us? We're juggling those priorities, and we're juggling those essential needs. But I just want to make it clear, there is no cut.
No, I don't think, I didn't hear the word cut, but there is, and my responsibility, I think, is to bring it to your attention as a liaison that that's what happened, and that's all I did.
Sure.
But you're also dealing with trustees versus department heads, and there's a bit of a just difference there, too, in that the trustees are the ones that have made the decision that they wanted to pursue this thing, and I think there's discussions ongoing, as I said earlier. The trustees will be meeting again. I'm glad this has come up, and this is public, so that everybody will hear exactly what was said, which tends to make decisions a lot easier.
Question, I'm sorry, Mike.
Go ahead, no, that's
Yeah,
fine.
to thoroughly vet the issue, I mean, clearly an agreed-upon process was circumvented. What was the rationale? What?
Well, I don't want to say it's an agreed-upon process was circumvented, because certainly it's well within their right to do what they did. Anybody can go out and get 10 signatures and petition, and I'm not trying to usurp anybody's right to do that. What I am suggesting to you is when an agency or a department within town or a body or a group of officials that work for the town do that, and they circumvent what is the typical review process, we could be setting ourselves up for a dangerous precedent going down the road if that is to be the norm. So what I'm suggesting to you is I don't want that to be the norm. I want department heads to bring a proposed or requested budget to the manager, whoever that may be, like they have in the past with my predecessor. And then the manager reviews the budget with the finance committee, with the Board of Selectmen, and obviously, I'm going to listen to the priorities and the direction of the board, but you can't have, in my view, various departments coming up and saying, we're going to seek a petition and expect that that is to be an accepted approach.
So did they feel just frustrated in the methodology? And, you know, I'm trying to get into what compelled them to do what they did.
It's essentially, again, I tried to admit, the whole process was created by the trustees, not the department head.
Yeah, I understand.
Secondly, the library there's been a constant discussion about adequate staffing since the library was built. There's never been a comfortable end result of a discussion for those at the other end of over there, across town.
No, I understand.
So that just continues. It's been a continuation, resulted in a 2-year-ago study that was funded by the Friends that presented to the town a variety of things that the study suggested should happen. And in their mind, that's their Bible, so to speak, and they're trying to follow what they paid for from a library expert, so to speak. And then they also find, like the schools to some degree, they have other things that impact the library, like accreditation and that type of thing. They tend to get worried about things happening that would cause them to lose their accreditation, like Wareham and Bourne's in trouble and Sandwich is in trouble.
Sandwich.
Because it puts a black mark on the town and the library. So there's a lot of things, but what Rodney said tonight, I think is exactly what should be said. There is a process. The department head understands the process. The trustees are pushing the envelope a little bit, and they know that. They wanted to push it enough to get it on the table, which we did. They're gonna have another meeting and talk about it. The fact that Rodney's willing to listen to them for conversational is all I wanted to put on the table.
Right.
And that's,
And
I think,
that's
Dave, I hope I gave you an answer. That's generally what's happened. They still feel unappreciated to some degree.
It's been like that from, I think, the very
Yes,
beginning,
for
even
some
going
time.
back to the argument for a new library.
That's
My,
correct.
my whole history, 20-plus years now, being on boards in town, it's been a long-term thing. And it's unfortunate, and of course, it is a small part of the budget, and of course, to them, it's a big thing. Of course. To add that one, and in the overall budget, it doesn't look like it's a big thing, but it's part of that balancing act that we all have to do. What worries me is going outside the process. I've come to that, I keep on coming back to that. I don't believe in budgeting by petition. It just doesn't work.
No, I absolutely, there's no question, no one's gonna
You could have $1
argue.
million in positions easily come up
Sure.
at the
I
next
think-
town
I think
meeting.
we all agree, but the
Yeah.
fact is, the petition process is in place.
I
So
mean-
it allows people to do that. Right or wrong.
Do you feel as though, you know, there's room for negotiation at this point? And I'm throwing that out there on the table, so we
There
don't get
isn't-
to a,
Yeah, there isn't room for negotiation in this budget for any additional personnel. There just isn't. And if I thought that there was any wiggle room, I would tell you. And I'm looking at this here. Under library salaries, there was a 5.8% increase. And for library expenses, a 5.2% increase.
And that's in your proposed budget,
In recommended.
right, your
which-
recommended,
Which has to obviously go before town meeting.
right. And what was theirs, it was quite a bit larger because of that position.
Quite a bit large.
Yeah.
I think we started, if I'm not mistaken, at an 18% increase. And
Overall.
Overall, and I asked them to be a little more conservative, and they came back with a 13% increase.
Yeah.
Well,
Those are the numbers.
we know the sides, and I'll tell you, I went back to the original budget book and read through it again.
And I don't want you to think that these decisions are made in a vacuum. I mean,
I don't think that
there's,
they are.
there's, there's a lot of consultating. There's a lot of thought process that goes into it. What is the growth? What is the revenue? What is the local aid? What is this? What is that? Do we have any debt service that's coming off? Blah, blah, blah. And all of these things are factored in. And again, I can't give enough credit to the finance team. They're the ones that make the person, whoever it may be, look outstanding.
do we know if because they don't get this additional person, is like, the reason why they're really pushing hard on it is if they don't get this person, do they go into receivership?
You know,
No.
it's,
Yeah.
there's always the wolf, crying wolf. I think there's a concern
Yep.
that the hours that they are open may be impacted to some degree with the staffing that they have, but they haven't said that this is the library has to close. I think, like I said, we're talking trustees versus the department head who has been through the process. The trustees don't go through the process per se. They are, they're there to hear and guide, so to speak. So the good thing is the conversation is taking place. It's on the table, and they're now hearing a little bit more about what they need to hear about, so.
And I also want to, publicly acknowledge, I appreciate what the trustees do. I appreciate the director and her staff. This is nothing personal. This is just a budgetary decision based upon fiscal responsibility and looking at the big picture. That's all this is. There's nothing more to it.
Okay. Any other further questions or comments?
There's a lot of discussion right from the very beginning. We built a brand-new library, very expensive and large. And when you build a facility like this, you have an image. And that image is directly related to what the town feels about library adherence or the support for good library. I have not heard from anybody that would come and tell us the fundamental reason why the Board of Trustees is concerned and supports an increase of 18% and then being cut down to 13%, and why the director whom we pay should have a voice before us too. And in the past, the director came before us and made her case, and we hear then not from a roundabout information, but directly from the people. So I would suggest I like to hear from the Board of Directors and their director to come before us and make the case. It would be embarrassing for the town to have something like what happened in Sandwich. They lost their accreditation. And for other people, this is a big problem. And it's the image for the town that needs to be preserved.
It sounded like Sandwich was a misunderstanding more than anything, from what I understood.
Well, but it was in the newspaper.
Yeah, I know.
If it's in the
but
newspaper,
from
then
what
it's out,
The
you
town manager
know?
said it was, the town manager of Sandwich said, Bud Dunham, it sounded like there was a lot of
Whatever happened there,
misinformation.
we have to make sure it should not happen here.
I agree.
Whether a
And if
misunderstanding or...
anything like that is in jeopardy, then the director has not brought that to my attention, which is the chain of command. And certainly the Board of Trustees certainly have a voice as well. That has not been said to me, that that's in jeopardy.
Well,
No, and I hope I didn't say that it was in jeopardy, because that didn't come out of my mouth at all.
No, I was
said
just
that
making
they have-
clarification,
They
that's
have,
all.
they're aware of it happening in the past, and they are aware of what they have to do to maintain their accreditation, and they are aware of the fact that it can happen, like it happened in Sandwich. There was a misunderstanding in Sandwich, but it was a misunderstanding between the library and the town politics, so it can happen.
And it
It's not
usually-
likely to happen here, but
it usually starts when there's no communication. Yeah.
I have to say, though, Mike has really, you've attended most of their meetings as our liaison, and there's been good communication there. And you were present during the budget.
No,
hearing.
I didn't make
I
it-
I don't mean his communication. It's the communication with the library and the town.
I'll throw it out there. Is there, would we like to invite the director and the board of the trustees?
Could I
of the
just
library to-
jump in?
Yeah.
The director reports to me.
Yep.
So I take exception to the director coming in and talking to you. If you want to invite the trustees, that's your call.
Okay.
But the director who ultimately reports to me is not coming before you unless I'm part and parcel to the recommendation. That's the way it is.
frankly, I don't think she wants to do that. I think that she's kind of hoping this thing goes away at the next trustee meeting. But I can't guarantee it.
If you want to invite the Board of Trustees, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, if it continues, so if it goes away, it's fine, but if it
Yeah,
continues, then we
Okay.
should make a decision.
And I'll even take it a step further and say, I am not objecting to bringing in the director, but that's going to be through me, not at your request. Do you follow me?
Yeah, that's
So if
fine.
you
We've
want
always said
me,
that.
if you would like me to bring the director in with myself, then I can make that arrangement. And I'd be willing to do that, but I don't want the Finance Committee to start calling in department heads and usurp the chain of command around here.
No, I don't think that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Should we then wait until, do you know when their next meeting is, Mike?
Not exactly, but, I mean, like I said, I think frankly that this televised meeting will go quite a ways towards resolving this issue, frankly.
Okay.
I think that might be the best thing I would think is that Rodney will hear from somebody subsequent to the meeting about how they feel things went down. That's the way I think it should happen.
All right, let's sit tight then. You agree?
Is that okay? I mean,
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah. All right, so let's table that. Let's hope that it works its way out. I just, no one likes to have a petition article come on and do the thing to the point that the chief and, you brought up, so, all right. Any other?
well, let me, just since I created a problem, I will add that the other three departments I talked to felt that the process went very smooth. They were very happy. They all had moved things around, had good conversations with the chief. And I read their reports, and they're all doing what they're supposed to do in terms of moving the town forward through the planning department and conservation, and they're all pretty happy. So 3 out of 4, not bad.
Good.
So I just want to make sure I talk on the plus side too.
That always helps.
My big liaison report we're discussing later on
Later
was
on
the
the
CIP,
CIP.
but I did send you guys all that stuff ahead of time, so you
Yep.
could see it.
I did see that.
I would just say, on the
Recreation.
CIP, I would just add, and I know you're going to discuss it, but I would just add that, again, the core to that is finding a number that is affordable, and then
Right.
putting in all the pieces to the CIP requests.
Never easy.
Never easy.
Never easy.
Nope, absolutely not. Any other further liaison?
Just the recreation department did their move, and
Yep.
they're opened
Yeah.
up,
Yep.
and Mary, actually, the recreation director, was at a meeting we had earlier this morning, and she seems pretty happy. with the
Good.
move. So,
Yeah, perfect place for it, I think, right next to the fields. All right, so let's move on to new business. And, so part of the new business, and, it's certainly, the budget, but there were some questions that I had asked everybody to look at their liaison. Now, I apologize, as I said earlier, I've been out of town. I have them, I'm gonna read them, but I don't think that it's fair to have, the chief actually respond to the answers to some of these questions unless he has it off the top of his head, but that's, you're not gonna throw him a curveball.
And again,
That'd be kind of funny.
not
but
not
we
to
probably
beat a
shouldn't.
dead horse, yeah, not to beat a dead horse. I'd be more than happy to bring a department head in at my request and to answer your questions.
Absolutely.
But I want that to go through me. That's all I was pointing out.
No
So if
issues.
you have a
That's good.
question for a particular department, then fire away.
Yeah, and that's what these are, and like I said, I already forwarded one to you, but I'm just gonna read them to put them into. So
Okay.
this one's from Jeffrey, and he had a question on Council of Aging, part-time salaries, that there was an increase of 6.5 in the part-time salaries. This is greater than any other salary increases and greater than the 5%, which might expect as the maximum step increases. Why is this? Now, again, these are just being put into the record. I'll forward these to you, Chief. So then,
Off the top of my head, I'm assuming it's a direct result of a merit increase in addition to a COLA.
COLA.
Now, that is just coming off the top of my head.
it says it right in
It
the
says in the report,
explanation.
yeah.
It says this increase is due to step increases and cost of living increases mandated by union contracts and the PA.
So I know the answer, and I didn't even look at the cheat sheet.
It's mostly,
How's that, Oscar?
mostly union contracts.
Next question, repairs and maintenance. What does the $2,000 here actually cover?
Where are you?
Repairs and maintenance.
On the council?
On the
Council of Aging.
Again,
I'm
it's
sorry,
right
Council
in
of
the
Aging.
explanation.
No, well, the issue is the request was for a lot more than that. So it's been pared back to $2,000. So what is the $2,000 actually covering?
Yeah, so the original was 3,078, so it was knocked down to 2K.
5,000.
5,078.
5,078.
Oh, 5,078.
3,078,
Yeah,
less than.
two. Yep,
I
yep, yep.
think, as I recall, that was work in their kitchen area.
Right. That totaled to about 2,500.
And if that's
Right.
taken out, what's being done with it? If you've taken out these potential repairs that are possibly going to be needed, is there any planning for that at all, or?
I don't specifically recall that example, but what I can tell you is each and every decision that was made as a result of something that could be tabled for a year or two, or something that wasn't in imminent need of being repaired tomorrow, or otherwise it was going to go. And I don't want you to think that there's not a progressive maintenance program, because I think, generally speaking, we do fairly well.
And if I may, you're still increasing the overall expense line item in the
Right.
Council on Aging, so.
Yeah, because they get a fire suppressant replacement and stuff like that. That was another question, that's being covered. Okay, and then office supplies, there was another question from Jeffrey, same budget. Is $1,000 really enough to cover the expenses here? FY15 expenditure for copying cost alone were $12.79. Is there any reason to believe that the copying cost will decrease? And again, these are just questions if, you know, I mean, they're getting pretty specific, so we can certainly table them or forward them to you. You
Yep,
can
I'm making
respond.
notes.
Yep, well, I'll, like I said, I'll send them to you.
So,
Okay?
They have a donation
donation
account.
account on both of those areas that they probably still can use. That's my guess.
And so you were. yeah.
That was going to be my guess, but I didn't want to misspeak. But yes, they do have a donation account that generally covers these.
And those two costs were previously charged there, so.
Right, so they're out of the operating budget
And
because
they
they're gonna
go
be
into the-
bought.
Go back
It's
into the
not that
donation
they're
account.
decreasing what you expect to
they'll go
do
back
in
in there.
expenses, but the money's coming from the donation account.
Does that make sense, Jeffrey? Because you are new here, and this is your first budget.
It does,
so-
but the last question I had down here is, what is the specific use of the donation account? Is it used,
Those two accounts you just talked about, there you go. No.
you know, is it something that is authorized to cover operating expenses?
It must be, because
It must have
otherwise
been.
our accountant wouldn't allow that to go through.
Yes.
And the other thing is, are these like one-time expenses, or are they ongoing that really should be part of the operating expense budget and not used?
I believe if you check the figures, and I could be wrong, because I'm going by memory without going specifically to my notes, I think you'll find that actually there was going to be less of a burden on their donation account than the previous fiscal year.
There's a question about vehicles, same in Council of Aging. Original request consists of $48.66 for gas, $34.50 for repairs, so the van was reduced to $8.16. I think I know the answer to this question too. If the expenses for gas are the same, there's not enough to cover the cost for repairing the van. What's the plan for covering this shortfall? If I'm not mistaken, this van is brand new. Is that correct? Council on Aging?
2009,
Oh, I thought that they got a newer one.
recreation, I think. but-
Oh, maybe it's the recreation.
Yeah, it's
van got a
recreation
new
that's
one.
new.
Okay. So that's another one, let's see, so the donation, okay. So that fixed, those are the questions, and again, I'll send them to you.
Yep.
Next question is for the tax assessor. Full-time.
Tax assessor, he never gets
I
questioned.
know, right? Full-time administrative salary, there's a 6.7% increase, what accounts for so large of an increase? And I'm thinking the same,
It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
the COLA and the step. So you know what those are?
yeah.
Just, again, I'm just throwing it out, I know.
It's generally 5, 6, maybe 7 steps. I think the school has a lot more steps than we do, but once the person maxes out, he or she would receive a COLA, but that's it. But again, as they're gradually going up steps on a year-to-year basis, subject to a satisfactory performance review, they would get the merit step as well as the COLA.
It's a
we
longevity.
have
That's contractual, by the way.
Longevity for them, yeah.
We have a couple that are actually no COLA or step, but they're at 22-year longevity and
16, yeah.
16 years, so, you know, but it was contractual, the
Yeah.
reason for that, I remember that.
So I'm just sending you a message. I think all the questions were answered except for the one about the van. So I'm just writing in here, Jeff's question, I believe the only question that needs to be addressed is the van
For the
Item.
Council on Aging.
Yep.
for Council on Aging. Okay, so I just sent that to you. The next question comes from Dave, and I just need to find it. Okay. Now, I did forward this one to you, Chief, so I don't know if we actually, in fact, get answers to it. I'll resend it and say I think we've answered them, but, so Dave asks, he only has, I only have questions on the fire and the human services budget. Fire, in the narrative, I wonder if there's any duplication between items 5581, 524, also 5710 and 5511.
I have to be perfectly frank, I have no idea what those line items are.
Right.
So I will take a look at your email and get you answers.
Okay.
No idea what those line items are.
Page one, fire recall wages was.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, on page one,
Of,
there's, of the fire departments.
yep,
The fire recall wages. Was there a one-off event that caused the FY15 budget to miss by 16%, resulting in a 10% increase? And if yes, is there a likelihood of this event reoccurring? So again, we're putting in the record. Again, on.
I'm assuming off the top of my head that recall is very, very difficult to project. It's almost like, PD overtime. It all depends on case management, it depends on the crisis, it depends on the accident, the fire, this, that.
Sickness.
It depends on a lot of things
Yeah.
that are very, very difficult to try to predict. We do our best because we have to present a budget, but it's not always accurate, which is why we have your $100,000 contingency reserve
Or turn back.
or turn back.
Right. On page two, Dave asks, overtime wages, why so high? Seems like a lot. Are we understaffed?
Didn't we have a couple people out on long?
We did.
Yeah.
In the fire department, yes.
Yeah. Repairs and maintenance, again, for fire. Rationale for 30% increase is additional call volume. Did call volume increase 30%? If not, and I suspect not, what was the correlation between increase in call volume and the resulting increase in associated repairs? For example, if call volume went up by 10%, is it reasonable for this to go up by 30%? And again, don't know, just asking the question. So,
Legitimate questions.
yep. Moving on to human services. Dave was wondering if it's possible if he could see some performance statistics for this department. Again, how many people are receiving counseling?
As an example, yeah, I know it's a low absolute dollar amount, low six figures, but in my opinion, I think the department serves a key piece in the mosaic of the services that the town offers its citizens. And no place in the budget does it speak to, these are the number of people who come in for counseling, or by giving these few $1,000s to this agency, and there's a whole list of agencies that they give thousands of dollars for. This is what it means in real human being, head counts.
Legitimate question, and that's all about accountability, so be more than happy to provide some info on that for you.
Good.
Thank you.
So I've sent that to you as well. If you didn't get 2 emails from me, just let me know.
Okay.
And I can resend it.
I won't hit delete.
You
They're on
see that
TV.
C. Avis and you go
Right?
delete.
You do that with all my emails.
Well, you weren't even getting the emails.
That's right.
But, I have to think that those statistics are readily available. It would just be good to communicate them and sort of elevate them,
Yep.
so we could all see it,
There's an awful lot of referrals within that department, because they refer out to different departments, so that's what you're seeing, I know what you're asking, though.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
When you look at the number of residents that are served, it's.
By each individual
Yeah.
group. Yep, no, great question. Okay, so let's move on to CIP.
Okay, so we're done with the budget?
Well-
We're not gonna talk about anything else about the budget first?
And I'll be strictly honest with you, when I went up to the chief's office today, I can't find my budget book.
That big book?
This one?
Yeah, that one.
And
I
then,
have the chiefs, and I've got Tom Murphy's, who's not, that's his, by the way, there. I've looked high and low, I can't find it.
I went through every single one of them, I don't have any questions. I read them all,
I
I wrote
know,
the
I'm
numbers down.
We have to
ready.
make it bigger.
I'm ready,
I don't have any questions.
I just don't know what I
ready to
did.
move.
So I apologize, and as I said, I've been away, so I have a lot of work ahead of me, which is fine.
So what you're saying, we're not gonna be taking any action on anything until
March
March
3rd,
3rd.
which we have time.
Just warning you, time is getting a little short because I have to do a report.
We all have to do a
Yeah, I
report.
know.
We all do.
When is the Board of Selectmen scheduled to execute
Execute, yeah, that's a good
the
question.
warrant?
I'm not sure of that date. I should know it, and I
It's
don't,
at
but,
the end of March, right?
Well, because if that report is due in the first week in April, I think they'd have to have it done. And I'm just saying, we have 2 meetings.
I've got the calendar right up in my office, and I can get it for
Now,
you.
we're not gonna do a joint meeting, I know we've done that in the past, but, I mean, that's a
We
decision,
didn't do it last year.
We haven't done it
we
in a
haven't done it a
while.
couple of times. I'm
I'll-
not a
I'll have-
favor of it, I think it's.
I'll have that calendar sent out to you. Did you receive that? No?
What?
The calendar?
The
Budget calendar? Well,
No.
not
The
a,
deadlines?
Yeah, there was a sheet issued.
well, the
We can-
sheet that was issued, I think, had something
No,
to
that
do
was
with
the
the.
budget hearings.
The budget hearings and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing anything in my email about, and if you want, chief, I can send you an email now asking for a copy of that
I
again.
don't recall seeing it either, though. It wasn't an email.
So we have a lot of work ahead of us, our 2 meetings in March, that's all.
Yeah.
The 3rd and the 17th.
But can we, I mean, I know we can vote on the thing, some of the problems is we have to do it a little bit afterwards, because there could be changes after they execute.
No, once they execute it, that's the final.
Then it's the final.
That's the final. Executing means that's the warrant that's gonna go.
That's gonna go.
Go in front of it, yeah. And we have to have all our recommendations in there and everything.
Public hearing is the 14th, is that correct?
That's CIP,
That's CIP.
yeah.
Okay.
And your public hearing in front of us is the 24th, which is a week after the 17th, right?
I don't have my calendar in front of me. But we'll get that out to you tomorrow,
Yeah,
so we're all on the same
it is
page.
17th, 24th.
24th.
Yeah,
Because we're meeting the 3rd and the 17th to finalize
That's
stuff,
correct.
and then he comes in front of us and does his final presentation.
yep,
And then the Board of Selectmen must be executing the following Monday,
which would be the 28th,
28th.
That's the 28th?
we believe. Well, 28th, but that's what we're thinking it is.
It's typically that last week of March.
Where are we meeting on March 17th? Liam McGuire's or?
Bill?
Yeah, we won't be on TV.
Bobby Burns
If
afterwards.
you bring it.
Remember, we had that problem with the charter review
Yeah, I
committee.
remember
We
that.
met on
Yes, I know,
St.
I know
Patty's Day. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions that may need to be addressed?
Not as of right now, and again, I stand here saying that I haven't had the opportunity to go through it as much as I should. So, I'm gonna compare it against the other thing, and the chief's gonna see if he can find me another one.
I was gonna say, do you wanna take mine while I'm on vacation? Because I am not gonna be reading this on vacation.
That should be the first thing you pack.
If you would like to take my book, go right
Can I ask
ahead.
Can I ask each of us send Terry 5 notes a day for the next 7 days, asking specific questions
About the budget.
about the budget.
There, how's that?
Perfect.
I think it looks pretty good, honestly, the whole thing. I mean, I know we're gonna have questions,
The
but
total overall.
I went through the whole thing and it looks,
Because I've looked at the recommendation
just- yeah.
budget, and it
This,
looks
right?
absolutely
Yeah.
right in line with, I think it's a 1.8, if I'm not mistaken, increase.
1.7.
1.7 increase year over year, so, you know, typically in the past, we've tended to get a little bit into the minutia of it, when realistically, I think, I look at, it's really, and I've been critical of this part of it in my prior years, sitting in this, on this committee, is to look at how many windshield wipers George Baker was buying for his vehicles and so forth, when, in fact,
you wanna know
I
why they
look
needed
at
two
it-
when you only one person in the car.
when in fact, that's really his delineation of how he's gonna spend the money. And realistically, I think our job is to look at the total number, look at how it's gonna impact the town, and, you know, how it will impact the tax rate. And I think that's sort of our job. Don't get me wrong, I have no issues with the questions that were posed here, seeing some of the larger increases and so forth. All
Yeah,
great
and you're right.
questions.
And Terry and I have been on
Great
both sides of
questions.
it, from the selectmen side, working
Right.
with you guys, so we've all gone through this, so.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we
Yep.
vetted it pretty well over the years.
Yeah, and,
And I think from a historical perspective, if you have vetted it to the extent that you're in your comfort zone, and that's if, and whether it be an expense item or whether it be a personnel expense, if you're comfortable with what has been provided and the level of service provided, and you are familiar with how each line item has broken down, I don't think we necessarily have to rehash it to the extent that it goes into every little detail each year, although we do get new members, and new members should be explained anything that they desire to have explanations for. However, I do say that if we get too focused on every little detail, sometimes something that is more significant might go under the radar. And I think we've got so many challenges coming down the pike that we really need to keep those in perspective. Not to suggest that you shouldn't be checking every dollar and penny. It's just, if you vetted it last year and you're comfortable with it, if there's something new coming, whether it be a person or whether it be an expense, that's, I think, fair,
Well, the focus
fair
should be-
questions. That should be the focus.
Now, between the three of us here, I mean, we've gone through this for the last 6 or 8 years, so you know the town's progress. So much of the stuff has been kind of a subsequent to previous year kind of thing, so as long as we've been involved in that. And the hardest part I had way back when was the steps and longevity and all that stuff. Once you get that down,
Right.
I hear you, agree with you.
yep. All right, so let's move on to the CIP.
Okay.
You all set with me, or
I think
do you want me
so.
to stick around?
Unless you don't trust me explaining the CIP.
I do, and if I wasn't suffering from this
Yeah.
chest cold, then I would stick around, but
Sure.
uh,
Yeah,
I'm
no
gonna
issues,
go
because
home
I
and
think
take some
everything else is
medicine,
fine.
unless
Thank
you've
you.
got some other questions.
I don't. Does anybody else on the committee have anything further? No,
And-
thank you,
and-
Chief.
And if you have other questions, just attach them to the email,
Certainly.
and I'll get the answers, and again, I'll get the department head in with me.
Yeah, we're not gonna circumvent the process. You've
I
made
just
it
don't want a
clear.
department head to think that they can circumvent the chain of command.
Nope.
The good thing you
So-
said that, because Chris was gonna ask you to stay for a couple hours.
Hope you
Thank you.
feel better.
Get better.
Have a good night.
All right,
care.
you too.
Oh, okay, I did send the list to everybody. Does everyone have their copy with them?
No.
For the CIP? I sent it out. I know Kathy brought some.
Yep.
Send it. I checked it
I sent out, was
This
it a
is
week and a half ago I sent this out?
Yeah.
Do you have an extra copy?
I got that,
Kathy
Have an
has
extra
some
copy?
copies.
that's a pretty good number,
As a mode.
considering years past.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that's off the
Okay.
table, too.
And I also sent about the fire pumper truck. There were a lot of requests, as I said, it was like 1.2, oh, for us. It was $1.2 million in requests for FY '17. And then we had the planning and construction requests, which we now have put off, thinking that we would be better served by doing a bonding and getting things done, such as the Quashnet school windows, which we know have been on there forever, and it's time to do it, but this isn't really the way to do it. So on the advice of the financial team, the finance director, the assessor, and the treasurer tax collector, they came up with an amount that they felt comfortable that we could use of the free cash or funds available, which was $419,000 and $811. And obviously, she said between 415 and 420, and feel comfortable with keeping our our stabilization and our free cash where they should be. Everything should be there. It's still lower than it has been in years past, because we did spend quite a bit of the money at October town meeting, if you recall, like the $350,000
For the town hall.
for the, to change over that building and doing all things in here, and I'm sure people have seen what that has resulted in. If you've been in any of the offices recently, been a big facelift in here with equipment, desks and chairs and painted walls. It really looks fantastic, I have to say. But anyway, long story short, we were already committed, as you can see, for instance, in the police department, we're in year 3 of those leases that the 10 vehicles, the 1 vehicle, and then the 4 vehicles is year 2. So 191,500 we're already committed to. We're in the middle of those lease or the end of that lease. The Public Works Department, quite a bit of that was also already committed, everything except for that $40,000, which you see on the bottom. So, you know, $182,000 was already committed there. Those are also in between year 3 of a 3-year lease and year 2 of a 2-year lease or a 3-year lease. We had several different things. That last one, the next to the last one, number 10, the 2016 F-250 with the uplift, that is the 2nd year, and it's because we kind of changed what we were originally gonna do, and so we funded the most of it at last year, and this year it's just the remaining $11,985 on that one.
Terry, weren't some of
Yes.
those vehicles that were put on those leases, we were talking some 1996, 5?
Oh, yeah.
They were old vehicles when they were replaced a couple of years ago, right?
That was actually, some were a couple of years ago when we were together, and some were last year
Yeah.
that we changed, so. And the only thing that we decided to fund that was new was we're going into year 1 of a 2-year lease, and it's another one of the F-550 dump trucks, which we all know we desperately need to have in place. The IT is something it's the last year of something that has been it's the ongoing change of the voicemail server switch for the PD and the firewall for the town hall. It's just the continuing maintenance and upkeep of, buying of equipment for the IT department. The recreation van, again, it's year 2 of the 3-year lease. You remember that we purchased the beginning of it last year, and this will be the 2nd year of a $30,000, about a $30,000 vehicle. So all of these funds, if you put in the conglomerate at $468,731, $419,811 is coming from funds available for appropriation or free cash. The $39,000 for the IT is coming from the Mashpee cable technical funds, MCAT. And then the lease for the van for the recreation department is continuing to come out of the recreation revolving fund. So the total is $468,731. Now, if you remember the last meeting we had, we do fully support the continuation of what they're doing at the schools, but we were assured by Paul Funk, the business administrator, that they'll have plenty of money to continue that program coming right out of their leftover funds, or they could possibly use those school choice funds, of which they have 900, and now it's up to 950-something thousand.
They can only use 680, but still, that's a lot of money, right?
They can use the entire bit of it,
But
except for on
they-
transportation or construction, but it's good policy to not
'Cause-
spend this
yeah.
year's money. But as you saw, I mean, that's a whole different subject, I did send that to everybody, too, the DLS, history over the last 6 years. But anyway, long story short, it was a unanimous vote of Don Thayer, Rodney Collins, Chuck Gazier, who's the at-large member, me, and Andy Gottlieb from the Board of Selectmen to support this at town meeting. And this will be Article, is it 3 or 4? I always get confused. It's right after the budget article every year, the CIP, but we highly recommended it. So, believe me, we vetted it out. And the planning and construction things, we asked that the Planning and Construction Committee reconvene, because according to the charter, planning and construction is supposed to meet yearly and give a report to the Board of Selectmen every year as per Charter Section 5-7. So they're gonna reconvene and come up with a plan, but Don Thayer and Craig Mahan both believed, that the treasurer, both believe that we can do some sort of a bond to fund those. And we'll do like we did a few years back, where they prioritize. And so say we bond $1 million, I'm just throwing that out, then they prioritize and you work through those, but believe me, those windows have gotta be number one. So that's my report on the CIP, and that will be one of the warrant articles that we vote on, whether we support it or not.
Were all of the requests, were these all the requests that were filled?
No, I said it
No.
was
It was-
1.2 million,
1.2 million.
but that
Yeah.
includes some of those planning and
Those are the planning
construction
and
things.
construction.
But, and I would be happy at some point to give anyone my booklet with
No, I-
all the
yeah, I read it.
things. But I tell you, this is lower than we've put out for
Yeah.
the last few
Usually
years.
By a
Just
couple
under
$100,000.
But remember, again, we spent that $350,000
Right.
in October.
So that took
Yeah.
care of a lot of the
It took-
ancillary things
Yeah.
that might be on
Exactly.
here. Yep.
Is it something we would motion to approve tonight, or do you want to wait for?
We can do it now, or we can do it when we're doing the whole
Go right
warrant,
down the
because
line.
it is an warrant article.
Yeah.
But I felt very comfortable with this, and
That's fine.
we had a really good discussion on it. But as part of our, getting off of that, getting to the next thing, there will be a separate warrant article for the fire pumper truck. And I did send that along too. And what it is it's replacing, was it a 1990 vehicle, I believe it is. We do have another pumper, but if you don't have a pumper at a fire, it's a big problem. If you can't pump and the Chief Rulo felt very strongly that we should do it. It has, it comes out of ambulance receipts.
Yeah.
It doesn't come out of
Free
our free
cash,
cash or our operating, so it's just what we use, ambulance receipts. Just be aware that starting next year, we're gonna start doing the ambulances again too. But they felt comfortable with what was in there. So that will be an article that'll authorize the treasurer to, what they do is they, is it a bonding, is that what you call it? Yes, a bond, and then it's paid
it's
through
paid
with
back.
the ambulance receipts, yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
Good.
It's very important, I'll tell you, you can't operate without a pumper truck. So we all strongly supported that as well. It was a unanimous vote. So that's what the CIP did. We may reconvene in the fall if there's, if this bond thing comes up and the planning and construction comes up, so, just so you know.
Have they not gotten to planning and construction, have not done a
They haven't been
report to-
meeting.
No, they haven't been, that's right.
No,
I had
and
a
that
suspicion.
was a question I asked during the CIP process. I said, so where's the report of the Planning and Construction Committee? And there was none, so we're asking for it.
I'm comfortable waiting until March 3rd, but we got a lot of work ahead of us, so if you guys want to do it, I make a motion to support these tonight.
Sure. I have a motion on the floor to approve the CIP budget as presented.
Well, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right, done. Check one off the list.
Can we do the fire truck too, or no?
I'm not prepared to do the fire
Okay.
truck.
Okay?
All right,
Just as a distinction, it's not the same as an aerial platform truck.
Right.
just want to do my homework.
Yep,
And will it fit in the garage?
yes, because it's replacing one the same size.
Nicely polished.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so I think we're all pretty much through everything that we needed to get through. Again, my apologies for being away. Is there anything else that anybody would like to discuss? Hearing none. Our next meeting is March 3rd. And please be ready, we'll, try to get through all of the budget as we can and, vote on certain things. Also remember that it's each of our responsibilities to help out with the report. So check your liaison, who you reply, or who you are liaison to, and, maybe you might want to start drafting sort of an explanation as to not only, we certainly won't have a vote taken, but an explanation of the article. Basically, what we do is,
We haven't even seen a draft of the warrant. We don't even know
No, I
what's
know.
on there yet, so it's kind of hard to do that.
well, yes, going through the budget, that's true.
The budget is just one of
When
the
do we get
articles.
that?
Well, I don't know, when is, Rodney, have you heard anything for the Board of Selectmen, when they're gonna have their first draft warrant?
And I think,
Articles were due on February 8th.
Yeah, and they have that's what the library petition article was. But of course, the selectmen can still add till they execute.
warrant.
Yeah, ask when we could
Yeah.
expect to see that, because that's the bulk of our report, is having the warrant. I mean, the budget is, and I can't really do anything else with the calculation of the tax rate either.
Right. Okay, done.
Did everyone get this?
Yep, I got it.
DLS? I found this very interesting, especially remembering about the assessments. Everybody looks at
Right.
what we get for aid, but they don't look at the offsets, like I had said with the school
15?
choice.
Yeah.
We were the negative on that, so, in FY15. And so I found it very interesting, and it did answer the question when they started having school choice too. Remember you
Oh,
asked
did it?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
See, I
you
didn't
saw
get
a
that deep.
zero in there. You saw a zero in there until then, so. Yeah, receiving tuition, we didn't get anything until, FY, whatever that was, 11.
11.
Yeah, FY 11. We got $10,000, we had 2 students.
2 kids.
And then we had 3, and then it
Yep.
grew.
Yeah, it grew pretty
And they
fast,
haven't
man.
touched that fund. Now,
Nope.
they've obviously expended money to other school districts out of a separate fund.
No, remember
No.
that, that's what the conundrum is here. That comes right off of our chapter 70.
Oh.
That's why I was saying school choice sending tuition. I mean, back in 2011, we sent out, we got cut in our chapter 70,
Yeah,
182 and we got 10,000, but they got it. It
Right.
goes into the schools.
So it's
school
from
choice.
chapter 70
Yeah.
directly in.
These are
Right.
these are the assessments.
Yeah.
On this page. These
And those are
This
the
is the income.
incoming.
Yeah. total estimated receipt, total estimated charges.
Charges.
And you can see that it came right off the Chapter 70, but as the school choice incoming tuition got bigger, it
Right.
became more of a factor because it's going into an account, and that's why we're saying, well, maybe it should be spent now to offset some of the operating budget
Sure.
things.
Sure,
So,
because they haven't obviously touched a penny of it.
no,
Okay.
Charges keep increasing substantially.
yes.
Right.
I found it very interesting looking
Where you
at the
can see the
history.
history, right?
Yeah.
The trend.
And then the charter school sending, and then
Absolutely.
the.
And the receipts
you know,
increase on a
school
slower
choice.
fashion. The way it goes, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. It was interesting. I found this when I was going around the DLS site. It was really interesting. Anyway,
Okay, awesome, thank you. Anything else to bring forward to the committee? Hearing none,
Move for adjournment.
over adjournment.
Second.
I have a first and second. Any discussion on adjourning? Hearing none. All those approved, say aye. Aye.